Yeah, all right, everybody. Hey, guess what? It is Saturday, April 18th, 2020. There's quite a few interesting informations going on. One, they're guessing that a second outbreak might be happening. Two, that summer will actually make it dormant for a while, but comes fall and winter, it'll kick back in. And also, it's possible that most of us got it already due to, the flu season, and it could have actually had the coronavirus in there before we even knew about it. Also, Ed is running for county commissioner over there in Lincoln County, and, well, evidently they're scared of him. Literally scared, because Ed's shown that the Queen of England has control over Yahoo, and when you searched, I don't know if it's the same way anymore, but when you searched in the past, last day or two, Edward Johnston, New Organ Trackers, it would come up where it appears he's given his "I'm stepping down" speech, whenever it actually was they copied a clip from the website of David Lee Buse saying that due to his health and everything, he's stepping down from doing these shows and focusing on his court cases and stuff. Misinformation. They were trying to make it to where Ed didn't have a chance in
Snowball's chance in hell.
Snowball's chance in hell, as that annoying female voice behind me says. But in the end, guys, they're scared. If they're doing shit like that, and pardon my French, but this is a 18 plus, so to you, whoever's too dang young to be here, effectively, that means he's got information they don't want out. And if you want to know that information, go to Organ Trackers on YouTube. Go to new.organtrackers.com or .org and find out that information, because it is updated regularly when we have time, and Ed keeps on getting new stuff coming out, and he's extremely busy. Lots and lots of people are asking him to help them out in their court cases. Whenever they're a lot of them, he doesn't help because they're too lazy to do the work themselves. So with that, Ed, why don't you take it away?
Thank you. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us again tonight. And you're telling the truth. It is crazy because what's going on. Because when you used to type in new.organ trackers, it used to come up organtrackers.org. Now it's coming up organtrackers.com, whereas, the headline now is saying how I'm, stepping away. And, it's amazing because you realize that people are getting the truth, because I've been preaching about collecting rainwater, growing food for years. I told people this was going to happen. I've done, even on talk shows over the last 10 years, even when I said it on live stream talk shows on major news programs that I've been on, and radio shows. And everybody called me crazy. And so now all of a sudden, everything I said is coming true, because I sat there and read the Senate bills. I realized what they were passing. I comprehended what the lawyers were doing. And remember, your lawyers and attorneys are from England. They are not American. The American Bar Association, if you actually do it, 1871, August 21, is still run and founded by the King of England. Well, the Queen right now running it. But the Queen of England is from Germany. And if you know anything about Germany, the Chancellor of Germany, the lady that's Chancellor of Germany right now, is the daughter of Adolf Hitler. So, we're constantly lied to, and I really hate to say it this way, but, no offense to Christians, but, I just went through it with my own local government. They're all Christian. They go to church. They lie all the time to their children, to everybody. I just got the phone with the mayor, and he's lying to me again. I got my water bill, and now they're calling me a tenant. And so I called up Rod Cross and I said, "Hey, Rod, what's going on?" Oh, that's a computer glitch. And I'm going, I really hate being bullshitted. It's not a computer glitch because in 2000, the lawyers passed a bill in the Oregon State House and Senate that the lawyers own everything in the state of Oregon, including your own silver, your own food in your home. And they can come in and take that food anytime they want for military structure. Anytime they want. This is reality, folks. This is why the Indian treaties and the Constitution is so important. That's why I say file your rights. If you would like it, I do that. File your rights. Because by law, a lawyer could only represent a corporation. So if you file your rights, all of a sudden, you have a corporate document that the lawyers have to represent. It's like learning how the system works compared to the fantasy of the Bible you want to preach. The Bible gives you absolutely no rights but a living hell. That's what we're living right now. Okay? But the treaties and Constitution gives you rights. When it goes to court, you hate. They have to go by it. You know, it's like I've been to court and I've had court cases where the judge says, "Well, Ed, can we proceed?" And I say, "Hell no." You know, they've had one time they had a jury waiting, and so they said no, they threw the case out. The other time I was foolish enough because I was still learning. I wanted to see more things, and so, I said to the judge, "You're going to do anything you want." And that's Branford. He tried to kill me 3 times. It's all on record. But of course, they stole that my house has been broken in so many times, and my files have been stolen. So, and people say, "Oh, they can't do that," and it's like, wake the fuck up. They can, because you don't stand up for me. You're not standing up for your neighbor. That's why it happens. You turn your back on your neighbor. When they have problems, everybody turns their back on their neighbor. That's how these things happen. Oh, I got to put the blinders on. I can't see that. And the only ones who can write criminal complaints is the living man or woman, and the only way they can technically be filed is if you're native. Immigration has to go through an immigration court structure if you actually read the Constitution, the Indian treaties, as well as the Supreme Court. Now, I'm going to be posting up some new stuff tonight that I got on the Supreme Court. And like I said, I knew there was 2 courts, and I got the other part, and the other part of the court system how to file your criminal complaints in the real court. I have the structure on the real court, how to do stuff. And we'll get that posted up. I emailed that out, so we'll probably get that up here, hopefully in the next 10 days, up on new.org and trackers. Because I've been, like I said, I've been doing the research. That's what I do. I'm not wasting my life. My family was destroyed. My children are dead. So when you sit there and go, "Oh, don't give me I've been dead 13 times. I spent 7.5 months in ICU, including on life support. Had to go through being shocked like Frankenstein. So I've been through all this, and I'm still here, folks. So, when people say that doesn't work, that's why, the one thing is like, every time I was in the hospital, they said, "We want you to sign this form. Would you sign the death form? Would you sign this form?" Hell no. "Would you give us rights?" I said, "No." "Well, if you die, do you want us to bring you back to life, or do you want us to let you go?" And I said, "No, you bring me back to life. If not, it's a criminal offense because you didn't do your job." Remember, it's their job to keep you alive. File your rights. File it. Claim it. Okay? Because if you don't claim it, nobody else is going to benefit you. I got nobody, when my time is up, I got nobody going to defend me. There ain't nobody out there. I got all this information, all this history, and if it ain't put on the website, it goes. My house has been robbed even with the original documents I had going back to 1800s with the state, because the state of Oregon was throwing away, all your documents because of the Paper Reduction Act. The Paper Reduction Act was designed to throw away the documents. Sort of like what the British did in the 1700s, burning down the White House. See, this is the one thing that people got to wake up to, the real facts instead of the fantasy or the things they want to dream of. And see, dreaming is nice. All right, but then again, we have to live in reality. And that is the problem. Most people are not living in reality, in any part of the word reality. And so once you realize that, we are in this destruction phase, they already have the other virus. This is what the host was saying, and the producer was saying, and that's a fact. They already got all this shit. It's population control. Their goal is to wipe out 60% of the population in 10 years. Wake up to reality. 60% of the population in 10 years. That's the real goal. That's going to affect your housing. That's going to affect your lives. And I do ask people, if you want my campaign letter, email me. It's a book. Literally. It's probably about 4,000 pages with all this stuff I got in it. It has the congressional records, the 14th Amendment in it when it was never passed, could never have been passed, because after the 13th Amendment was ratified, and it's a fact, it was ratified, and I have that on the new.org and Trackers website. And see, that's the one thing you got to realize. This stuff was done to protect you from their religion. The Constitution gives you the right to religion, but remember, religion screws you up because, see, you have to check with somebody else, some pastor, somebody else, before you make a decision. So, when it comes down to it, and this is the other point, statutes are commonly applied to the acts of legislative body. So when your Senate House members and your Congress members pass these things, I'm arguing with my mayor, and he's trying to tell me, oh, no, that's not the law, Ed, we're not part of it. And it's like, I've been asking for the money in my community, tax structure and stuff for years. I already have the information how it's going and being deposited to the Queen of England and the Roman Catholic Church. I've emailed it out. I posted it up. At one point I used to have about 30 pages on all the websites. Now I'm down to about 1.5 to 2 still. When I keep putting out instruments every day, on the internet. There should be hundreds of pages on me on the internet and stuff that I put out. But you got to remember, they got people that don't want this information out. They don't want you to be educated. They don't want you to know that you have rights and truth. And so that's the one thing I say. Title 28, 3002, 3241. Read the damn thing. The British government owns you. Owns your soil. I've been fighting this in my own family for years on this stuff. So, it's disgusting that you have to sit there and fight. I know there's people that are amazed that I kept on living. They expected to have my soil sold out from underneath me. They tried many times, and I'm still here. But that comes because I have a concept of what the law is, the Constitution, and the Indian treaties. Remember, each state has a treaty with the British government. Every state does. Alaska and Hawaii are not part of the United States. I have somebody that was arguing with me the other day going, oh, you don't understand what you just posted about the terrorist Obama in the state of Hawaii. And I'm going, bullshit. Hawaii is flying the British flag. Are people that damn stupid? Of course you are. Oh, they tell me this, and so I believe them. So that's exactly what, you're going to do that with Stalin and, Germany. Put you in the gas chamber, turn on the gas, and then play in the gas, throw the match in and torch you. And you're living that right now in this so-called virus that they're doing. And then right now, I was just informed that there's already 30% of the meat production that's shut down. They're getting ready to shut down another 30. I was just informed by some people in the industry that they're getting ready to shut down another 30% straight across. So they're shutting down 60% of the food resources, your cattle, your beef, your pork, and all this stuff. They're getting ready to shut it down. Even though the businesses are still there, they can still run it. The hotels still could use the business and stuff, but they want to shut it down. This is the only way they're able to bankrupt this country, because they know they're going to go groveling to give up your Constitution for a plate of food. Instead of filing your rights, standing up next to your neighbor with your arms and going, hey, I have a right to go hunting and fishing. Stop logging. We can feed ourselves because now we got the food growing back in the forest. It's that simple, folks. And I hate to really tell you, even Donald Trump personally told you this February, a year ago, all through the media. He said to the general public, live on all the radio stations, including in a speech he made, it's your responsibility to file on the corporation that's doing damage to you. Nobody comprehended that point, did you? It's your responsibility. It's not the government. Everybody's going, oh, Donald Trump needs to save us. He's the president of the Queen's Corporation, dummies. He can't do certain things without committing the Queen's treason and getting executed. Even though we have laws that elected and public employees have done, and they should be executed. But you're not smart enough to band together and stand together. You know, I've been trying to get groups together for the last 5, 6 years. You know, we start doing this, you know, we can save this stuff. But everybody keeps going, oh, Ed, you got to have God in it. What about the Bible? You know, and I'm like, God doesn't save anybody. Remember, when God, if you want to believe in the fictitious circumstances of God and the Bible and all that, how come 3,000 soldiers murdered a man called God or Jesus, just us? That's what I always have fun with people. Jesus, just us. It's just us, folks. Look in the mirror, just us. Look in the mirror. Jesus, you're looking at Jesus, just us. See, that's the point. And so they had over 30,000 people watch this guy get murdered and nobody stood up to him. That's amazing. And we're doing that right now today. You're doing that right now. You know, and then, you know, it's coming up. There's going to be a couple of new surprises coming up with a few other things that are coming up with the so-called corporations have in store for you. And you're going to see that in your cities. They're going to start, unless you file on your soil, they're going to start to throw you off your land. Trust me, I've been through that on both sides of the coin. Friends, family, and the government. And I'm still on my soil. You know, I ain't giving up my rights. And like I said, I have been dead. I have lost, you know, suffocated. You know, I know what it's like, you know, all of a sudden being there and going out and, you know, coming back and like, holy shit. You know, I did that a couple of times in the ICU unit and come back and I'm like freaking out. And they're like, don't calm down, Ed. You're here. This is what's going on. You know, tell me what state you're in. Tell me what day it is. Tell me what time it is. You know, like I can't see the clock. I don't got a clock, but I tell them the date and where I'm at. And they go, oh, so you are coherent. You do comprehend. I've lived this stuff. This ain't a joke. I've lived this stuff. So, and I've even done talk shows in ICU unit and in the hospital when I was in the hospital. So, I mean, and that's the point. We got to start doing this, and you guys got to start planting food and growing food. Do not rely back on the system, because when I do this new system, and you're going to get different type of food chemicals, and you got to start reading labels, cans on your food, and what they're adding into that food. And if you can't comprehend a statement on that label, type it on the internet, print it out so that way you still have it for reference in case they shut down the whole system. You know, that's why, and if you go on to 123, there's a few free movie sites, go watch Soil and Green. You're living it, man. You don't even realize half the stuff that you're eating in fast food joints that is not, it's not real meat. It's human cadaver meat. You're living it today, Soil and Green. Some of your medical society, you're living that, and if you don't know that, then it's called a movie called Idiosyncrasy. You know, I'll go print it out, and I'll bring it up here, and I'll tell you the exact spelling of it. So that way, you know, we don't have a conflict of interest. So you already got the stuff in your medical stuff going on. You know, and you got all these people yelling and open up the state and open up the state. You know, it always makes me so interesting how stupid the general public is. All you have to do is just start going. Open it up yourself. You know, why are you asking some king to open it, some queen? You know, they got the joke going around that Trump's the king now. Why are you asking the king to open up your home? Why are you asking the king to open up your job? But you notice the government's still working. They're still hiring people. Insurance companies are still operating. You know, that's the one thing, you know, that you don't get. You know, it is one of those things that you don't pay attention. And this movie is great. It's Idiocracy. Idiocracy. And you go and type in on the internet, watch free movies, and you'll come up. And, you know, I mean, it shows you what's going on in your medical facility right now. It's like I would never sign my rights away. You know, they kept on even in the hospital. My family members, some of my family members, you got to do this, you got to do that. And don't tell me what I have to do. I know the system a hell of a lot better than you do. You know, and then I want to tell you, I mean, I got family members who are in the structure, you know. I never sold my soul. And then the other one I recommend that you definitely have to watch. You have to watch Interstate 60. Interstate 60. That explains your court system. It's all a joke. So you have to go to a federal court system. And the court system is you have to find out if the federal court system exists. And it does. But then again, you have to file in the right court. So we'll have the criminal forms up. I got new criminal forms, and it was our former partner who... because it was medical stuff, but he's still out there doing research. So he sent me a whole bunch of stuff, and we're grateful for that. So I will be putting this stuff up. We'll get this stuff up, so this way you can actually go to the forms, print them out, autograph them. Remember, everything has to be done in red ink or the red thumbprint. Your mark, your seal. Put your seal on it so it's real. If you don't have a seal on it, it's not real. They'll lie to you and say, oh, we could accept it. And then the other point that, you know, we'll put up, and I know we have up there, is the courts are free if you are native. If you're an immigrant, they're not free to you because you're not a native. You don't have rights. You have privileges, so the courts are not abounded for you. But they are if you pay your taxes and you pay your administration fees and everything. And if you're following the corporation's right, if you're an immigrant, yeah, then you got privileges with some strength. Okay, but your rights come from being 5 or more generations. That goes back to the Dred Scott case. If you actually read the Dred Scott case, they changed the large C to the small c, so everything became a corporation. Civil War, you know, Queen of England. You know, we're still fighting the Queen of England, folks. It's no different. It's reality. Things have not changed. So when you got people out there saying how all this stuff's changed, it's never changed. It's only changed by the people that you're working with or the people around you. It's the only reason why it's changed, because you allow somebody to dictate to you. You know, it's like Mayor Rod Cross, you know. Several months ago, you know, they've been after me trying to get my boat off my property. And it's like, I live in the Sasami zone. So, and they're going, oh, the Sasami will never come up this high. And it's like, you know, I always heard that from people that this or that will never happen. And then when it does happen, they go, well, it wasn't supposed to. So, you know, quit assuming. If you know the word assume, you know what the word assume really means. So, and this is the problem we have right now with the corporations. How are you going to defend your children? How are you going to defend yourself? How are you feeding yourself? Now, with the food that they're supposed to waste, I mean, in Idaho right now, they have 30 tons of potatoes sitting on the side of the road. They got sticks on the road, on the side of the road saying, free, help yourself. Because they're not shipping the food out. And they're going to be doing that with the meat coming up. President Trump just executive order for all the supplies of the food to go to food share programs. And then my point is that how come the ODF&W, Fish and Wildlife of your state, is not doubling and tripling the food production called your salmon, trout? How come they haven't done it? I mean, I wrote a plan for this 30 years ago. If they would have done the plan that I did with the natural hatchery plans the way I did it, we would have abundance of fish. And it's scary right now on the West Coast because we got Fukushima still leaking in the ocean, and people say, oh, that doesn't affect it. Nuclear waste doesn't dissolve for 2,000 years. Read your scientific manuals. And then we got Hanford still leaking in the Columbia River. I know. I've caught fish I've caught sturgeon that had sores on them. I caught a sturgeon once that had no tail. You can see it was burned off. And it was just less than a quarter inch for me coming to what they call the legal side. I arguing with my dad, let's break the spine. We can make it. I didn't want no problems. You know, we just go to the store and buy it. And it's like, yeah, that's the solution. Oh, go ask permission from a grocery store, and then when they don't have it, then you're going to sit there and fight for your food. We haven't seen anything yet, folks. You know, I mean, you don't have real food right now. There's no real production going on, and then they're talking about nothing's open in the state of Oregon. They're not talking anything in Oregon opening up until September. Most of the states are not even open up till September, and Michigan just shut down, and that's the point where Michigan right now has got the lobbyists, and they got picket signs out right now in front of Michigan. You know, open the state, and the governor's going, no. And then the governor passed a bill in the state of Michigan, and if you're caught growing food, 30 days in jail. Oregon has the same thing. You're not supposed to collect rainwater. Of course, I do. I told the governors, both of them, to go to hell, all three of them, actually, to go to hell. I even did that twice at the Oregon State public hearings, at the Oregon State House and Senate floor public hearings. You know, you people have privilege. Remember, you work for the British government. Your job is when the Civil War ended, we ended up hiring the federal government was created. So that way the federal government was to protect the native people, not immigrants, the natives. That's the original agreements that we have with the Civil War. That's called the two constitutions. Type in two constitutions, 1866. You'll, what? It might come up. You know, I mean, I used to have so many paperwork, industrial paperwork, and all this stuff out there, you know, and I mean, you know, my house has been robbed and all this stuff. And, you know, most people don't give a shit because they want to protect the dirty people. And everybody says, well, there's God and devil. All right, so the devil's been robbing my home, so where's the good people protecting it? The good people, my neighbor says, oh, I'm not going to get involved because, we watched them go in your house. We watched them rob your house, but we're not signing a complaint because we're not going to lose our job. We're not going to go to jail for you. That's the reality, folks. I mean, even Lawrence up in Portland finally starting to talk about it, I guess, but I've been after him for 15 years on this shit. Lawrence threw me off the show a couple years back. I mean, I got poisoned. I was poisoned ended up in the hospital. You know, and I'm on a talk show, and then, and Lawrence starts making a joke about it on his live. We're on live, and I was, starting to suffocate. This is 4 years ago. And I'm trying to explain to him what's going on, and I'm being classified as a crackpot. Or it's like people would say, or Lawrence did a couple times on his own talk show. Oh, Oregon's crackers? And so I didn't think about it at the time, but a cracker, if you actually know in history, and I had a guy point this out to me once, a former reporter, who took his life because he was a lawyer who saw all this shit. He went into law to give him all this famous stuff, and then when he met me, and I walked him through and showed him all the bullshit with the structure years ago. Sorry to say, Joel, but Joe Gallup committed suicide. Of course, I don't know if that was intentional because I talked him out of it several times, or if it was the people around him because he kept on interesting in people. But it's like, I mean, I would feed him information, and, this is at the Newport News Times, and so how he ended up getting shipped to Wyoming, basically in Siberia is what they call it in the media, because in Wyoming is just a little snow place where he ended up, with that. But he left paperwork with my name in it in the copy machine. So the next day it was found, and then it was 3 days later when he was let go, but the paper found him another job in Wyoming. I think it was Casper, Wyoming. So he had to move there in the middle of winter. So it was, these things do happen, folks. This is reality. And then where's your God? Where's God? How come God didn't save Joel? That's the point. Everybody keeps going, God, pray to God, pray to God. And I keep going, who's God? What God? Why is there a God? Everybody gets on me about religion. The Constitution says you have a religion right by the treaties. I support that. I just did that on the campaign deal when I was talking to people yesterday on the phone dealing with my campaign with a couple organizations because they're asking my point on religion and especially on vouchers. Religious vouchers, some school vouchers, so the vouchers be allowed. And I said, hell yeah, what happens if they want to go to a church? Well, okay, but that's where the churches have to be responsible. It's public funding. It's supposedly your tax dollars that's being rotated, even though it's not tax dollars. Excuse me, because we know it doesn't exist. But I said, yeah, I support that because in that way it comes down to the people that have to be liable, responsible. And that's the point. You have to be responsible for your upbringing, your bloodline. It's your fault. Your child gets some problems and stuff. You can't go blame. I watch people all the time. My kid became a drug addict and he drank too much and it's all these people's fault and they hung out with the wrong people. Bullshit. It's like when they were asking me questions about the drug and alcohol program. Should we let 5% of the marijuana tax money go to these new programs? And I'm going, hell no. That money should actually go back to people in their paychecks and their dividend checks to come back to we the people. It's our money. But they want to sit there and they want to take this money and create these new programs. They're pushing for a new ballot title for the state of Oregon on this, so 5% of the gross receipts go to a couple new programs, drug and alcohol programs. We already have drug and alcohol programs. Where they're trying to create new government agencies so that way they can create new nonprofit agencies, 501c3 through 501c39. Okay, and remember, all your taxes and all your write-offs and your 1099 forms all get shipped to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is still owned by the Queen of England. That's the point, is that this stuff is out there. It's a real fact. And then we sit there and we want to argue with our neighbors about a fucking abortion? Who gives? And that was the other question. The one thing the one lady was really adamant, we can tell she's heavy religious. You can't kill a baby. And, what you're talking about, what is that? I guess you could call it a parasite. It develops. It's like the Crohn is like Crohn 19. It develops, so it develops into something. That's a parasite. So it develops. That's what a child is. It develops. You can't take God's child. How come it's God's child? How come it's not the woman's child? This is what I was saying to the lady. I said, is it your body? So if a man rapes you, you have to carry that child, so you have no rights to your body. She goes, well, if that happens, then I have to do that because that's God. And I said, wait a minute. So in other words, a man could come over and continually rape you, and so that way you have no rights. You have to keep that child. You're a breeder. You're a breeding factory then. You have to go like what they were doing to the women in Germany, when they started doing that in 1921 through 1944. So in other words, you're becoming a breeding factory for a corporation. And I said, see, the thing is that you asked me about a woman's right. Does a woman have a right to her body? And that's what I explained. A woman has a right because the Constitution, the Indian treaties give the woman a right to her body. If the woman has no right to her body, a man has no right to his body. So in other words, we're going to have some preacher coming in and tell us right or wrong? In other words, you have no freedom, so now you're a programmed unit? You know, yeah, but, you know, that's the whole thing, that they want to put the chip in you. You know, put a chip in. And then those chips, we don't know if they're going to put cyanide release tablets in those things or not. So, oh, they wouldn't do that. You know, when people tell me they wouldn't do that, that just shows me how stupid. And people say, Ed, you can't say stupid and dumb. You should say ignorant. Be nice and polite. You know, this is 2020. You figure after 100 years of all this crap, we finally got over being polite. We started wanting to be men and women again. Where are the real men? Very few real men anymore. Very few. You know, so when people tell me, you know, oh, you got to do this and you got to do that and you got to protect the woman's right, I want to protect the woman's right. That means that her body is her body. I believe if a man rapes a woman, give the woman a knife. Let her cut the guy up. The guy took away from her. Why not let her take away from the guy that did it to her? Isn't that called justice? See, people forget what the word justice means. You know, technically justice. Look up the word justice sometimes. You might be amazed. I'm going to let you look it up. Why don't you go do the legal definition of it and do the religious justification of it? Actually, there's two justifications of it. And that's a quiz for you guys to look up and your children. So look it up. Figure it out. So when it comes down to, we're getting ready, and they're talking about this other one, and it was like, because I remember reading this in the Senate bills back in 1999. I mean, the one bill they had in 1999 was Senate Bill 449, 1999. Oh, God, boy, did I get so attacked in the media by Gene Cowan and former President County Commissioner Claire Hall, that was Bill Hall, you know, transgender. I don't give a shit if he wants to be transgender. The Constitution and treaty gives him a right. Democracy doesn't give him a right. That's the point. People don't comprehend. The Constitution gives you the right with the treaties. There is no democracy. Look up the word democracy. That's what your pastor, your pope, your preacher says. Democracy. I can rape children and I'm forgiven. I can rape children. I didn't know it was a crime to rape children. You'll hear preachers say that all the time. God says it's okay to rape children. See, and that's what gets to me. You know, they do this stuff out there, and they're having this stuff done to you, and then you're sitting there going, oh, I need to justify this. I need to justify that. Well, how about you realize and read the facts and how to do it? It's like your city, county, and state. They're a municipality. They're a nonprofit agency. They're on the stock exchange. So if you don't pay, that's the other point I've been arguing about the order bill. Where's our percentage? Because if it's our government, we're supposed to get a dividend check by law, especially under the, I'll come up to that here in a minute. But it's supposed to be our government. It's either our government or foreign government, all right? I've been after them in my county. I filed the first ballot title I actually filed when I moved to this county. Yeah, and that was when, I think it was 1999, no, it was 2001. The first ballot title I ever filed in the state of Oregon was to put the public employees' salaries, so that way it went by each department block. So then that way you could vote if they deserve a pay raise. The state couldn't give themselves pay raise unless it went to the general public. You know, even though that's crazy too, because but I wanted to put a fight between the public employees, because the public employees is mostly your voting block, and that's a conflict of interest anyways. You know, public employees, your mayor, city council, your carpenter, who's a contractor of the city, they shouldn't be allowed to vote, because they're voting for their own pay raises. They're voting for their own structure. You know, I mean, it was a big measure. Years ago, I did a recall on the school board, you know, and then I got my life severely threatened when I filed that ballot title. I stood up in a room with 700 people in the school district because they were privatizing our school districts, fucking the kids over. Excuse my language for those. But sometimes you just get sort of frustrated, even though I don't like swearing. I was raised better than that. But, you know, TV and everything today, hey, we've crossed that threshold. There is no respect anymore. Because do you respect your neighbor? You see things going on with your neighbor, do you protect your neighbor? Are you going to stand up for your neighbor? What are you going to do for your neighbor? These are questions that severely need to be answered. You know, so I got severely threatened by the Public Employees Union, seriously, when I put this ballot title in, to recall the entire Lincoln County School Board. And you can type it in on the internet, it still comes up. The original one with my name on it. But I got so threatened, so I ended up signing it over to the school district, the school board, actually the school union. You know, the state employees union. And so we got it through, and everybody's like, well, Ed, you know, you finally got it. And it was like, yeah. There was such an outcry throughout the entire state, they mandatorily passed it. Oh, that's right. Voting machines are calibrated to decide who's going to win or not by the county clerk. Well, I mean, I have to assume that because the structure of the voting machines was done by Bill Clinton. We've got that videotape, I think, on the website where they did it so that way they could calibrate the voting machines to who's going to win or not by the voting districts of what comes down through the Senate and House. Remember, your legislators. Each legislator is a contractor for the Queen of England. You pay your state and federal property taxes. Goes to the Queen of England and the Vatican. Yeah, your religion. You know? And then you say, oh, they won't kill people. Bull. I mean, you know, you got to realize the church makes so much money on abortions themselves. And then when you have a kid, unless you don't register it with the state registers that kid and lets you fight and make sure it doesn't happen. Then they own the child. That's how they come in your house to steal your kid without a warrant. We were glad in 2017 and 2018 that we got the Supreme Court to pass the law that says it has to be done by a grand jury. And we put that out, try to get people and attorneys to back that up. Lawyers ain't going to back it up. Lawyers want money. First thing they tell you, minimums on a child case, minimums $5,000. They don't do anything. You know, remember, if you hire a lawyer, you give up your rights to the Queen of England, so you're an indigent man or woman to the corporation. You have no rights the minute you hire a lawyer. You know, and I've dealt with lawyers for 35 years. I've even gone after the lawyers on YouTube and all this stuff. You know, telling them, and they're trying to put this stuff about drunk drivings and all this shit, and I put the real laws up, and they're like, oh, you can't do that. I've had a couple of them threaten me. Oh, we're going to take you to court. And I said, okay, let's go to court. And then I said, we have to go to court in Washington, D.C., and then we have to go to the federal court in, what do I call it, Philadelphia. And they're going, no, district court. And I said, the district court is not a court. That's a court of the Legislative Court of England. And I've had lawyers done to argue with me. I mean, you can type in Ed Johnson, Toledo. I got my court case up. I had a $50 million lawsuit filed against the city of Toledo. The mayor, the city council, police chief, the cops that tried to murder me, all this shit. And my lawyer sold it. I want to know how much he got paid for selling off that contract. You know, thank you, Terrence. You know. I mean, you know, when a friend of mine hired Terry to, you know, save his land and property taxes, I was dealing with all this with the mayor, the city council, in Newport, the county commissioners, and that was including Bill Hall, who was, you know, involved in all this, or Claire Hall, excuse me. Keep forgetting the legal British terminology. Remember, legal is British, not American. And so, you know, and they stole his land from him. And then when they stole it, they redesignated, and who bought the land? Oh, that's right, a public employee. See, this is how this stuff really recycles under the King and Queen of England, folks. It ain't a joke. You know, I mean, I've been thankful because I have certain family members that have helped me out, and they're slowly getting some of this stuff, yeah. You know, and I get the point where, you know, we have to keep, you know, you have to work with people. But see, the thing is, when you're going through this stuff and you're watching these things being destroyed, you know, and then you're watching your rights being eroded. I mean, people are being arrested for walking down the street not wearing a mask. People are drug off of trains for not wearing a mask, but the cops ain't wearing masks themselves. But it's okay for the cops to catch the coronavirus, but it's not for you. See, has anybody got any intelligence here? Is there any brain working here? Do you see the bullshit that you're living? You know, I mean, that's the point. We're living in a bullshit world. And everybody goes, oh, pray to God. Sorry, I don't see it. I mean, I'll tell you, honest to God, the first time I'm talking to people on my soil, when I was on my soil, I'm still on my soil. Thank you, Creator. But when I was talking to people, man, I swear, in 2013, the first heart surgery I had, they went in and wrote a router on my heart, and the doctor was so freaked out. He goes, "I've never done surgery on somebody who was only 60% clogged. That's not normal." You know? When we did the test, you were worse. Then when we got in there, we found out you weren't. So my first rotor-rooter surgery was in 2013. I swear I got hit by a ray. This is after we put in the 5G towers. And they say those 5G towers are just new. Bullshit. These 5G towers are not new. Now, they put in a 5G tower up on the hillside where I'm sitting right now. And I swear, man, I mean, I got hit by a bolt, and I felt the bolt, you know, and it was like, I swear it was like a ray that hit me. And it dropped me like a ton of bricks. And I ended up going to hospital. That's how I ended up in ICU for 10 days with the first rotor-rooter heart surgery I had. And then the minute I got out of the hospital, I went right to the Oregon State House Capitol because I was right in the same building, and I was grateful because I ended up with professionals that knew what they were doing. And I went right to the Oregon State House of Senate, and I went and spoke against the bill because I had a bill so your parents could, your family members, your brother, sister, anybody, if they didn't like you, they could file a claim against you saying you're mentally ill so they could steal your property and assets. And I went into that Capitol, and I mean, and everybody, I mean, even the state police cops, everybody knows me up there. They're looking at me going, Ed, why are you here? You should be home. You just got out of you just walked from the hospital here, basically. What? You should be home. And I said, no. I got here for a reason. So I went and spoke against that bill. And it's still on public record, and I would like to get that video. The video used to be up on the internet, but they got taken down somehow. Oh, I have lots of videos of me testifying on the Senate floor about the water bills, the gun bills, arm bills that are trying to take away your rights. Believe me, I spoke at hundreds of Senate and public and Senate House hearings. Hundreds. I was up at the Capitol for 20 years. You know, I mean, and I'm still grateful even today and then. Because I would go and somebody would say, you know, when I go out to lunch, I'm scraping pennies together and cans. Somebody says, buy that guy lunch. Okay, thank you. I'd pull in a gas station, you know. I would miss traveling right now because I got a deal if I travel, they're going to shoot me. I've got that on YouTube video by the former police chief and dealing with Governor Kate Brown. You know, if I don't buy their paperwork, they're going to kill me. And Kate, if there is a God, trust me, I filed on the Vatican on the souls, and I'm coming for you if it's real. But see, I don't believe in any of this shit. I believe in what's in front of my face and what I see is in my hand on paperwork. Because if it's in writing, it's a factual statement. Hearsay does not stand up in a grand jury courtroom. And by the way, if you get a grand jury and you want to go to court, make sure the judge has a constitutional oath. Make sure he has a constitution bond, which he has to have. I believe we have this stuff on our website. I don't know where it's actually placed on it. Because I think there should be a structure for judge. We're working on some things and putting some outlines with judges and lawyers, so it's done it so it's easier fashion. But the one thing with this point is that when it comes down to this point, know who you are dealing with. Know who the brother and sister of your politician is. Know who the brother or sister is the constitution or the contractor you're dealing with. Okay, because your brother or sister, the brother or sister of a congressman could be somebody who's a good friend of yours. You don't even know it's a congressman that's passing these bills and they're feeding them information. I learned that the hard way a couple times. So, I mean, they got spies everywhere. They even got spies right now on the radio and TV. I even know for a fact that the phone system runs through the Toledo Police Department because it used to be the old AT&T building. I mean, I've had AT&T or, go down there and switch my phone line so far on record 13 times. They had to find me a new route on my own route so I wasn't included in the wiring system. This is real, folks. I mean, I filed these paperwork. I filed on these businesses. And that's what you have to do. The only ones that can file criminal charges is a native. Congressmen, senators cannot file criminal charges. They can write them up for you, but you have to autograph them and have them in wet ink. And you have to have them as your seal. Sure, they can write up anything, but if you don't have it autographed, but let me tell you, if it's autographed in blue ink or black ink, dead man's ink, blue ink is royalty. And it's always cute. You can always use gold ink because gold is king or queen ink. Purple is knight. See, that's the one thing. Learn your ink colors. So one thing that's so apparent when you get to know what the real world works compared to the fantasy we lied to and what you watch on TV. It's like, Dragnet used to always say, Friday used to always say, just the facts, man, nothing but the facts. See, we had some good TV shows. Raymond Bear, I used to love watching him, guy in a wheelchair through the courts. That's one of the things when I grew up, I used to watch that program all the time, watching the court cases. But, when you start putting these pieces together, you start living in reality. And that's the one thing that most people don't live in reality. You think you're living in a reality, but whose reality are you living in? See, if you're not putting this stuff on paper and proving your facts, then you have no court case. And so, like I said, I didn't post up things last week and the week before on the Oregon Tracker site, and I'll be doing that throughout the night. Because I've been focusing on this campaign. Right now I got to put out another 1,500 emails out here in the next 3 days throughout my county because I've emailed out everything personally. Because I don't have the money to go right in TV advertising. I don't have the money to. I would love to be able to put a YouTube commercial up on some of this stuff, but I don't have $1,000 to do this right now. I had over $45,000 stolen from my house and went under our bills when the cops raided my house and stole my house. I mean, I used to have gold and silver that was stolen out of my house and my jewelry stuff. Because I used to make custom jewelry. Right? Because, I started questioning things. And you could ask anybody in my county. Any judge, any cop, anybody. They all know me. Trust me. You mention Ed Johnson's name, and, I've been told people cringe. To me, I think it's sort of funny. Because that means they tell me they're afraid of the truth. I've had people after the last time I died when I went to different public meetings, like, God, you're the walking dead, you're still alive. And I've had major politicians tell me that. Like you said, it ain't my time yet. Because I don't know. I mean, it's like when my time comes, I want to, part of the certain structures to split. I want the earth to rumble. Because people need to feel that fear. To see it. Because everybody always says, Jesus Christ is coming, God's coming. You've been hearing that for 2,000 years that God is coming to protect you. Has he? Cops come in and steal your kid. Are you protected? I remember when, it was crazy what I went through with my ex because, we went through a lot of stuff, and I'll send the video to her. I'm going to tell her to listen to this damn thing. But we went through this thing where, they were talking about trying to come and take her kids, and it's like, you come take your kids, man, you know what you're going to deal with. I wouldn't put up with this shit, and they know. Okay, I had a woman come into my life, and the first time in my life I felt responsible. Woman gave me the responsibility of her children. So in the middle of the night, when a kid needed medication or whatever, I go find it. I go get it. And she's like, I'm surprised that you got up in the middle of the night. You went and did this. You went and did that. And I'm like, we're together. That's my responsibility. I accepted the responsibility that you gave me. And then all of a sudden it got to the point where all of a sudden the fear started going, and, she's being told by these points, including Joe Gallup, pissed me off about Joe, putting fear in people's minds on this shit, because he's told to do this by Rob Yvette, who's running right now the state insurance stuff, the, what the hell they call that, I'll think of it here in a minute. But, he runs the insurance structure for the state. His wife, I don't know if she still runs the Habitat for Humanities in Newport. All this stuff is to rape, rob, and pillage, Oh, we're doing all these wonderful things for the people. But then again, when you get trouble, oh, my God, we can't go in and arrest it. Because you remember 30 years ago, if you don't remember 30 years ago, I remember even 25 years ago, I used to go back in 2000. A kid would be wrongfully taken, and I would run around for different senators and go file paperwork on people, and the kids would get dropped off on the doorstep. I did that throughout the state of Oregon, and I did that in Northern California in a few cases. I didn't want to be known. I wanted to be one of those guys that you didn't know who came through the middle of the night. And then all of a sudden, I throw my name in the ring, running for mayor, city council. I even won one of the mayor's race one year. It said the dead votes, Sharon Brandstatter won by the dead votes. So, I've been through all this stuff in my county and throughout the territory. And remember, learn how to speak American, native tongue. Don't speak religious, because when you say person, a person does not exist. A person is an inanimate object. A person has a legal obligation. See, that's the point. These words mean so much when you read them and you comprehend what a legal obligation is. Hell, I don't want your obligation. I'm not going to sit there and take a responsibility for you. I did that once in my life. I was forced, literally, by the circumstances, I was forced to put my fiance and her kids on the street after what was going on when I was opening up some investigations. I recalled the entire Lincoln County School Board, proved they had $10 million with a guesstimate of $150. I was filing it. I had the state attorney general. I had the House and Senate attacking me. I had cops that were pulling us over. The cops, even the present police chief of Toledo, Michael, and I hope you roll in your sleep. But, she would leave the house and he would pull over and start writing tickets to her. All the time they were sitting right down the street waiting for me or her to leave so they could assault us and write tickets. Literally. So you say, God, if there's a God, I want hell to come to these people, but where's the hell? I'm living the hell. You're living the hell. We're living the hell with this pandemic that was created by the corporation. 10, 30 feet away from somebody. Oh my God, you breathe on them. They might catch the food. The flu. See, this is the reality you're living. I went through it where, my ex never met her family. And then when you start finding, family getting together, and then all of a sudden I was the bad guy. Because I didn't have commercial TV. I didn't have all this bullshit. I didn't want cell phones. And then, she goes, what happens if I needed to get a hold of you in an emergency? I said, trust me, I'll find out. Somebody will tell me. I'll walk into business. Somebody will tell me. I'm not going to have a tracking device. I'm not going to have the government to track me to have my phones tapped for the government. That's why I have a landline. I'm still protected under landline law. I posted that up, and that was even revised in 1999. So long as it's a landline, you still have rights so long as you're native. That was a Supreme Court decision. I still got to find that. I used to have the records until all my records were stolen. Like I said, these people fucking steal from you. They don't get it. Go ahead.
Is there a point to this?
Go ahead.
Is there a point to this rambling down memory lane, or are you just going to keep going?
Yeah, there is a point coming up to this rambling. So, but yeah, when it comes down to the point that, all right, so I'm getting on his rambling, so I'm being told it's rambling, but, but there is a point. Now, the point is to start defending yourself. Start protecting yourself with your neighbor. Know who to trust. Learn who to trust. Learn if you can trust your neighbor or your family member or friend. Learn who you can trust. Do never let emotions run you. That is the biggest point. People let emotions run them without clearly thinking. Because most people don't clearly think about the circumstances of what's around them. They let emotions run them. So, but anyhow, I will be posting the new information I got on the courtrooms because, like I said, I'm still putting this stuff up, still doing the research. I've got some other stuff that's supposed to be sent to me, and I got to still do some more legal research to the Superior Court. But like I said, when you go to a courtroom, you want to make sure the judge has an oath that's in wet ink that you get a copy of, that he's bonded and insured. And if he's bonded and insured, you have to file a conflict of interest statement on him and the clerk. So, and I believe we have those conflict of interest statements up on the website, new.org and trackers. So that's the main point. Read this stuff, start printing this stuff out, and learn this stuff, because when you get in these problems, you have to know how to handle the circumstances and write this stuff up and to do this. So with that, I was getting off on a tangent apparently. So what we'll do is we'll open up the floor, and but like I said, let's get these questions going. Let's start educating each other, and let's start putting this stuff together so we're working together. So if we at least in this, we can start forming groups. I've been after people. Let's form some. If you're going to court, we can sit there and do letters. We can make sure it's done. The courts, you can go in and videotape. If a judge says you can't, you have to put it in writing. You want it clerk in writing. And if they say you can't do that, serve them the law that says you have the right to videotape. I think we have that up on the new.org and trackers. We have the laws, at least have the laws somewhere, but we put them up, I believe. But we want to make sure that you print this stuff out, and this way you have the evidence so you know, and read this stuff. Read the court cases. Read what the judges that were in your favor, that worked for you, that produced this evidence. It's H.R. 192. When they what I'm doing before I recommend that. And if somebody's been successful, I would like to hear that so I can produce it and bring that out. So with that, let's open up the floor.
All participants are unmuted.
Anybody would like to add anything or bring up something, another topic?
May I?
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Marshall Meekum in Utah again.
Hey, how you doing today?
Good. I got cut off last time I talked to you. I don't even know where, but one of my questions is with all the groups that we got out there, how come we can't get them all to come together? Why does everybody think that they're the only ones and you should only follow their groups and that sort of thing when they're all trying to do the same thing? I thought that's been interesting.
Well, no, I get you on that point, but the conflict that I've had, because I'm not religious and I don't do religious ceremonies and stuff, and they've told me that you're not part of God, so we're not having nothing to do with you.
I don't see where that makes any difference. I mean,
thank you.
Most of the groups, some of them will say that. Some of them start with prayer, but lots of them don't, and lots of them, you know, they say you got to separate church from state, and so.
Practice what you preach. Yeah.
Yeah. But another suggestion I was going to make, you know how you talked about the red ink? I was thinking about that, and I was going to ask you about that. But I'm actually, on my seal, instead of the red ink, I'm actually pricking my thumb and putting it in real blood.
I agree.
Is that okay?
I agree, because technically that's what you're supposed to do. That's lawful. That's the lawful, what they call lawful signature.
Yep.
So I'm on the same page with you, and it's so simple. They got those tests that they give for diabetes that has a little puncture in it. Works great.
Yep. I have some of them.
Yeah, it's easier than cutting your finger with a knife because it's less painful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
speaking from experience. So, no, I agree with you, and that's the one thing that we've got to start doing, that if people start standing up at this point and start accepting the facts of how to do their paperwork. So, anyhow, all right, we got that one. Would you got anything else you'd like to throw in? Hello? Are we losing?
No. I'm fine. That's all I wanted to know. I think I'm just listening to most of the stuff you say, and it's interesting.
Well, and you know, I'm going to be posting this up on the YouTube channel when I get off tonight. I'll be posting this probably most of the stuff I got from the Superior Court immediately, because then that way we'll get the forms up. This way you can start printing out the forms, the real forms. You know, and I'm still trying to find the forms I had last year before I ended up back in ICU that I had, and they were all from Justice Department, and they were all stated that they had to be filled out in red ink, and there could be no borders or boxes in it. Because people say, well, we got to box this in or zip code in, and it's like, okay, but you know, you're boxing something in, so you're boxing it to ship it. So I have a conflict with that one, even though I know the system on it. I'd much rather leave it open. You know, so that way they know it's in red ink and stuff. So, anybody else would like to add anything else?
Yeah, if I may.
Well,
okay, one at a time. First one that said May.
Oh, is that me?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering if there's a reference or something you use to find the color of the inks and the seal and all the details and stuff about that.
I think we might have it on the website, but you can just type in definition of ink, red, blue, gold, and it'll come up.
Oh, all right, thanks.
On the internet. And I think we have it on the new.org and tracker site, but that's one way. And it does expressly explain the red ink, because I grew up and my grandmother used to work for a general in the Army in San Francisco, and General Colonel. And so they had 3 different inks on her desk that she would always have. And so that's the first time it was ever explained to me. And it was explained to me by her employer at that time when I was about 9, 10 years old. So anyhow, there was another comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, apparently yesterday, I guess, there was hundreds of protesters in Boise, Idaho.
Yeah.
So that's, at the Capitol in Boise. So in a way, that's pretty good that there'd be hundreds of
Yeah.
protesters in the small state of Idaho. That's it for now.
So, and they're protesting to open up, or protesting against the food shortage, or what?
As I understand it, they're protesting been shut up, can't go places that they want to go.
Right.
They want to get their gardens go. They want to start growing their gardens and other things, and so they were down there protesting, not being able to do the things they want to do. They want to get back to work.
Yeah, but see, I agree with you. But see, people don't realize. Do you realize that you're under martial law that goes back to Lincoln right now? That's what's been implied on you. You can't do anything. That's martial law. So anybody else?
May I?
Yep.
There's a couple things they've done away with. They've done away with freedom of religion, and they've done away with free speech too. So, but I was going to say Texas and several other states. Utah's trying to get together. We want to go back to work. We're not going to. They're telling the governor, you know, we're not going to listen to this crap. Or it's time to do something, or we're just going to go back to work anyway.
I agree with you, but what horrifies me about Utah, United Nations moved into Utah last year, or year before last, and they took over 17 cities, and United Nations is writing Utah administrative rules through the Senate right now. That's why they're doing. Go ahead.
There was plenty of us there to stop all that crap. That we had a lot of people there trying to stop that thing. That isn't flying very well here, let me tell you.
I know it isn't. I keep going. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. That's all I had to say. I just know it's not flying here at all. They're very upset about it, people here.
Yeah, no, I'm well aware of that because I put out a major deal to the local medias there a year ago. I was on the phone with many people, senators. I even wrote a couple administrative bills to aid them and ship them off to them in the newspapers out there. I actually had to set up to put the mayors who passed those administrative bills in their own city and county to put them in federal prison for life for treason, because treason is a capital offense, and I think we should start going back to public hanging. And you cannot use a rope because the hanging rules is if the rope breaks, that means God wants them to live, is what religious says. So use a cable. Simple. Solves the issue. You know, I don't have a problem with religion. I'm not down or against religion because I believe in the Creator, Mother Earth, you know, and without Mother Earth and the Father, we wouldn't have life. So I look at religion at a different point. I look at it from a native point of view. I don't look at it from a, no disrespect to those, but I don't look from a foreign agent point of view because remember, the religion in the Bible came from foreign countries. They were never from this country originally. So I just look at it a little differently. Go ahead. I thought I heard somebody was speaking up, but see, I mean, that's the whole point. If we don't protect even religion, your religion, if you're, you know, Christian and whatever religion you come from, excluding Muslims, because Muslims believe kill the infidel, and if you don't believe like them, that men are allowed to rape women and children, and it's acceptable, just like the churches do. Because I still can't believe that they put in the papers that these ministers and these popes and people are saying, I didn't know it was against the law to rape children. It says it's basically okay. So that's what scares me about that, where we're living, you know, that these people are getting away with it, and your elected and public employees, your county commissioners, you know, your district attorney, state attorney general are going. I mean, our state attorney general in Oregon is the same one for the last several years, 2 decades. I mean, even when I filed the criminal process that I did with the recalls and the other criminal things I filed with the mayor and the city council, you know, I'm told, oh, that's okay, Ed. You know, and then, you know, I've had it from the State Attorney General of Oregon telling me it's okay if they kill you. You know, because you got to remember that's the Roman Catholic ruling that is under the British administrative rules that the House and Senate run by. And trust me, the House and Senate do run by the British administrative rules. If you actually look at the Supreme Court, the original foundation of the Supreme Court laws, it says that. That's why the original Supreme Court foundation says that the Indian treaties are the law of the land. Then it goes to the Constitution. You know, and I got to see if I can find it because I had all that printed out at one point, and that box was going, and I had that in my other computer before that one crashed. So, and I mean, it's interesting because me and Dave Lee Buse, we've actually, we're writing bills and we're talking on the phone and we're both typing on, you know, the same way we're writing, and all of a sudden we're watching our screens as we're typing being erased. And I'm like, how the hell did this happen? He goes, did you just do that to me? And I'm like, how can I do it to you when I'm on the East, you're on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast. How can I do that to you? And we actually were fighting on this. So we've been through that. We know that they can tap and do your researches, your stuff. I mean, you know, it is that easy for these people. So anybody else?
What are your thoughts on them shutting down the food situation and not us fighting on that one?
That's the one thing that we should be in uproar on, that one. You know, that's why I support collecting rainwater and growing food. And filing your rights in the state and house, wherever state and house you live in, and your state corporation, filing your rights so that way you can be not inhibited from your structure. I'm totally against what they're doing on that one. You know, I mean, Michigan governor coming out and saying if you grow food, you're going to jail. That was just in the news just 10 days ago.
Yeah, and you can't buy seeds. You'd have to order them online.
You know.
That's not essential anymore. The other one was, the reason I asked was because they're actually going against their own public law situations when it comes to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy what's going on.
You know, and then I'm wondering if the farmers and the, you know, like the cattlemen, you know, the people that sell beef, chickens, whatever, you know, when it comes to animals and food, or even people when they're growing stuff, you know, do they know this stuff? Do they happen to, you know, that's the people we've got to get involved in it also.
Well, and that's the point that I like to see, you know, as sort of like expanding with those around us. We start talking about how to do this and start, you know, writing up your filings and then posting your filings, and in that way we can post them around, because it's like I'm doing that with a couple people right now that are going around and they're writing up claims or complaints, criminal complaints and criminal charges. And so we're posting that around and we're trying to get a bigger group so that way we can share that, because if we all start sharing this and start doing it, and then that way we get, what was that, VO5 had the one best commercial in the 70s. Tell one friend you're using this shampoo and tell another, and you know, if everybody remembers the commercial. Even Coca-Cola ran off on that back in 1979. So, I mean, we could do this. We could start putting a chain in there, start doing this, because we don't have to go to civil war, because, you know, we don't have to kill each other, because we already got them killing us right now.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing it right now to people right now, and people ain't getting that how bad we're living this right now. So, I agree, supplanting food, growing food, and all that. I'm getting ready. I've got to work on my garden. Grow your medicine. And, oh, by the way, we did put on new.Oregon trackers on the front page the plants that you could use for toilet paper, because the Indians were smart. They knew what plants use. Don't use poison oak, poison ivy. But we have that on that from the east to west coast on the plants that you could use, that, you know, if you need to. Go ahead.
Yesterday, in Madras, Oregon, the owner of the sale yard was saying that there's 4 outfits, packing houses, that are manipulating the cow market. And he only had 60 head of cattle that he sold at the last sale. It's spring of the year. I've got a brother in Colorado, and he sold some cattle, and he's taken about a $500 a head loss on the cattle that he's sold. So they're manipulating these markets. And, you know, the food is, if it's too cheap, you don't want to sell it. What are the farmers and ranchers going to do if, you know, the commodity prices, they can't make any money? And they're looking right now at like corn at $3.31 a bushel. That's costs them more to plant it than and irrigate it than they can get out of it. Wheat is just about break-even point. You know, so a lot of these things, who's going to buy this stuff? You know, are these foreigners going to end up taking all of our grain at such a reduced price that it puts farmers and ranchers out of business? That's all for now.
No, that's exactly the point. That's what China is working on, because China owns your stock market and stuff. What they're trying to do is belly it up so that way, because see, Kate Brown went to foreign Asia because they wanted to move in 3 million foreigners in so they could take over public lands, so that way they could grow food and ship it to their own countries. This is real. We're living this right now. You know, so yeah, and China is trying to take over because China owns like 300 million acres, I guess, across the country now. And they own a lot of Utah right now. That's part of what the United Nations moved in there for. People are not really aware of. But China is moving in people in Utah to grow food off of the plantations, as I'm calling them, that were taken over by tax foreclosures. And see, that's the point. When you don't pay your taxes, they come in with the sheriff to steal your land at gunpoint. And remember, this comes from the Queen of England. People say, China has a contract with England. You know, that's what these international laws are all about. These international treaties are about. You know, that's why, you know, I put this stuff up. I read this stuff. Like I said, I literally, you know, live on reading and doing this stuff.
May I?
Yeah.
Everybody ought to type in that does not know, and they ought to type in, what American companies does China own? And they own the controlling majority of the stock of 2,400 U.S. companies. Plus they own Chicago Stock Exchange. They own AMC Movies. Smithfield Foods, one of the outfits that went bankrupt. What's the game they're playing, you know?
That was Gordon Smith Food Company, that former congressman.
Yeah. They own GE Appliances, the Waldorf Astoria, and many other corporations China owns. So for the last 25 years, China's been taking all them trillions of dollars and bringing it over here. After all, for 25 years, what's not been made in China? Almost everything that we buy is made in China. So you can see what they've been doing. They've been buying up our corporations, our politicians, and now they're behind the virus, and they're behind manipulating the Chicago Stock Exchange on all of the animals. That's all for now.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you, because I do recall growing up in the Bay Area back in the 70s when, like Red Wing Shoe Company, because I remember a good pair of boots back then was $59.99. And, you know, and people were upset because, you know, the prices were expensive for a good pair of boots, but those boots, even before they needed to be resold, last you 10 years. And it cost you $20 to resell it back then, or $25, and it lasts you another $25. You know, and back then the leather was real leather. It wasn't like they do today where leather tears apart and does not do. I remember in the 70s when people were bitching about this when China started buying up and taking this stuff. You know, when I was growing up in the Bay Area, you know, I was a kid back then, and until the 80s, I was a young man then, and I didn't comprehend a lot of that stuff. And then I started realizing when they were selling gas stations to the Russians, because one of my employers I worked in Terra Linda at Union 76 station, he just came in from Russia, bought the gas station, paid cash for it. I ended up working for him, and you know, and it was interesting. I mean, when I worked for him for some time, some of the stuff he told me, I was just like flabbergasted. You know, I mean, and then what I'm seeing today is what these people back then were telling me was going to happen, and they were telling me that this was going to happen. And you know, like I said, I grew up around politicians and politics and all this stuff, and you know, you're growing up and you don't, you know, no, it ain't going to happen. How many times did you say, that won't happen, that can't happen, that's not going to happen, and then you're living it?
May I? Don't forget Agenda 21.
Oh, yeah.
They want to take our property and move everybody into town and then starve them.
Well, that's what they're doing with the forest. That's why I can't believe that we're logging. So, I mean, in my town, they call my town, you know, Tree City, USA. In the last 5 years, they cut 80% of the trees out of my town and around the area. I used to have 300-foot trees around here. You know, we used to, in my street corner, I mean, I used to literally watch, you know, 2 o'clock in the morning, cougars walk down the street. You know, and I mean, you know, the cats would always get eaten. You know, I was fortunate they never went after my dogs, but, you know, I mean, but it's interesting because I've actually seen cougars, you know, walking down my street in my front yard. Before I cut my tree down in my front yard, because my tree used to be 200 foot, and I cut that to put my house in here because, you know, I couldn't do it unless I was doing a stick built, and I didn't have the resources at that time. I would have loved to have done stick built underneath it with ferment. But I used to have big bucks laying underneath that tree. You know, we get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we come out when I used to work at a restaurant, and I was the morning cook. You know, I'll come out and I got these nice big bucks. Go ahead.
It's my understanding that there's not much logging going on right now. The mills have mostly what they're getting. There's no logging going on. And the price of timber is about less than half, I guess, of what it was a year ago. And if it keeps going, you know, it'll be half of that half. So, you know, there's no money in logging the trees, so maybe that's the benefit. We'll have a lot of trees here pretty soon. But then we got to figure out how to survive.
That's the other point. Go ahead.
No, that's all.
Well, and that's the other point, because people don't realize, because I'm in Newport here 25, 30 years ago, I used to watch these big ships leave the port here. That's why they were dredging the port here all the time. And Newport and Coos Bay. And these would ship the ships out, and they would sell all this timber to China, and China buried it all around in their oceans around them, sunk it all in the oceans for the wood. And I mean, a friend of mine, Joe Gallup, he wrote the story on it when he was a newspaper reporter here before he committed suicide. You know, because, like I said, Joe couldn't believe when I was exposing things to him. You know, especially what they did the Oregon Coast fisheries, the fishing, and said, you know, Oregon Coast right now, if you fish in the state of Oregon, you go to jail. There's no fishing allowed. You know, if you get caught fishing, you're going to jail because ODF&W closed the fishing and hunting down. So this is the thing. And then they're talking about deer and elk season coming up, and how are you going to go hunting when there's no hunting? See, they're crashing and destroying the economy deliberately. You got to realize this is not just a fluke that's going on. It's really not a fluke going on. It's not just a fluke going on. It's real.
May I?
Yeah.
The other day, for the first time ever, I saw a drone going up the canyon. So I talked to a few people, and they said, "Oh yeah, they're going up and down all the creeks and canyons in the Forest Service right now." Now I don't know who is it or who's behind it, but I find that interesting that that the government is running drones up and down the creeks. They're trying to find out who. I guess they found some guy with a tent up in the creek, and they went and arrested him, and so I don't know what happens to him, but they don't want anybody up in the Forest Service land camping, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And they're spotting them with drones. That's all.
That's a fact.
May I?
Yeah.
Well, as a marshal, we've been given the word that these drones are coming from Russia, and to shoot them down if you see them anywhere. If you see them, shoot them down, because they're not really necessarily ours. And so you're not supposed to be flying them anyway without some kind of I don't know what they go about, but if I see them, I'll shoot them down.
Now, and the other point is the fact is the Department of Forestry and the ODF&W is flying drones to see who's out fishing and hunting and feeding themselves. That was a news article, an email I got from ODF&W about 6 months ago, and I put it all over Facebook, that they were going to start this new drone program to go out and to find what they call poachers. So, and that's the point. People don't realize poaching, feeding yourself is a crime. Because if you don't buy it from a commercial industry, you're not supposed to eat. And see, we are living this crazy shit right now.
Yeah, and they've also got a drone that will fit in the palm of your hand. It's that small. But that drone, if it lands on your head, it'll blow you up. I mean, it'll kill you instantly. That's how. I mean, but of course, I tell everybody right now. I said, I don't want you worried about a virus. I said the mosquitoes kill more people than this virus ever will. So I said, but nobody watches out for mosquitoes.
Yeah.
May I?
Yeah.
The drone I seen looked like it was about 4 feet long. It was green in color and looked like part of the forest. One of the people I talked to that seemed to know a little about it said it was the Forest Service was the ones behind the drones in our vicinity in the forest running up and down the creeks. I don't know for a fact, but that's what I was told. And that's what I saw.
Yeah, I would agree with that because, like I said, I did put that on Facebook that I don't have the one from Forest Service, and I'll do a Freedom Information this week to them and ask them about it. But I do have the one. I got to find the one for ODF&W, and I'll get that out because ODF&W did have that out.
If I may.
So, and that's the one thing that people, we are living in this where, I remember, like I said, in the 70s, people telling me about all this shit was going to happen with China, and you're thinking, oh, bullshit, that ain't going to happen. And now all of a sudden, I'm living this shit, and I'm like, all these guys that were telling me, all these hippies that were it's like the hippie movement. If they actually knew the Constitution, we wouldn't be living the way we're living today. But see, they didn't know how to speak legalese back then. So it's horrifying what we're living, especially what the children are going to be looking at. If they don't have education, that's why I said you need to file your rights, file this, because when you go to court, the judge has to honor the contract of the corporation, and you file your corporation, that's why I'm not a resident of the state. That's like the mayor's telling me yesterday when I was talking to Rod, he's like, well, you own your land, don't you? And I said, yeah, that's why I'm sitting there going, why are you sending me that I'm the tenant to my property? Oh, that was just a clerical error. What do you think, I'm freaking stupid? No, they're going to go try to cover their tracks right now because they know what they're doing, because this comes under the article from the Bar Association in 2000 when they passed the administrative bill that says the bar owns everything. You know, and that goes back to the Bankruptcy Act of 1933, what they're claiming, because they're saying that you owe it, and then people say, well, you get your food stamps, and so you owe them, and it's like, no, food stamps is not supposed to go to immigrants, number one. And I have the immigration laws, too. If you hire an immigrant, you're supposed to go to jail. By law, if you hire an immigrant, you're supposed to go to jail. Okay, and that's the point. They're changing these administrative rules, and these immigrant laws go all the way back to the 1770s, because in the immigrant law of 1778, when they passed that, and I mean, they actually have an immigrant law in 1778 with the Constitution. And it says that maximum there could only be 50,000 people every other year allowed, and if the community doesn't like them, they can be shipped back to their home. You know, and that's the point. We have a document. I mean, our forefathers and elders back then thought this shit through. They looked at this. They weren't all self-centered. And then with the Civil War, you know, with these Democrat senators from the South, you know, still making their money off of the slaves, and then we're still a slave today. Oh, yeah, you get paycheck, and you get your medical and dental paid, so you're not a slave. Yeah, right. And you do something wrong, then they take your job, and then they put you in jail. Yeah. So, tell me that you're not a slave. Yeah, I mean, I've been through that. Been there, done it, lived it. You know. So, you know, that's why I'm doing the talk shows. That's why I'm always out putting out, that's why I run for office. I speak this stuff out. I put these laws out all the time. The main thing is, I like living. So they can call me a crackpot all they want, but every time I start bringing out different evidence, it proves how strong I am. So, but I mean, like I said, if we're not protecting the children right now, what's coming down the pike, you know, and the other gentleman, we brought up the thing with the mosquitoes. Yes, they do have mosquitoes and flies that are out there that can kill you, poison you by just zapping you. That was proven, and one of the investment corporations is Bill Gates Corporation. You know, type in mosquito drones Bill Gates. It'll come up. Because me and the Joe Gallup, we used to joke about that back 15 years ago. So, I mean, you know, and, you know, these public employees, they sold their soul. They don't give a shit about their children. They know, and let me tell you, most of these public employees, they know that, you know, they're supposed to register under the 1938 Foreign Administration Registration Act. And that's the one thing I do ask everybody to do. When you file your paperwork, always include that 1938 Foreign Administration Registration Act. And anything you file, anything you email, and ask them if they're registered. Because by law, federal law and state law, and even state law, they're supposed to be registered, and if they're not, it's mandatory 1 year in jail. Mandatory. And so that's what I'm pushing on some of these public employees. So that way it becomes mandatory, so we work on getting them in jail. And charged with treason. And David Lee Buse just filed on Nancy Pelosi on treason charges again, and we've done that before. So he just filed again, and so we're going to see, we're moving that, and so we'll get that put up on the website and public notice law. But that's the one thing that if you guys see this stuff on the public notice stuff on new.org and trackers, endorse it and send it in yourself. Copy, paste it. I don't care if you use ours or rewrite it and you send your own. But you can always email your stuff to me, and we can always get on public record law. We do have a public record law structure on new.org and trackers for us. because that way we're paying, and we've got to work on still coming up with the other resources, because it costs us $20 a month to run the site on the way the site is, just to run it. That's not including the labor to put up everything, the electronics and everything else. But if we get some help out paying at least that, at least we can keep the site going up for longer, because, we got another probably 6 months, but, I'm putting up $20 every month on my disability, and I'm trying to get it to, my goal is to try to get another couple years advanced on it paid. If I get another, a couple $100 and pay it up for another couple years ahead of time, we can keep this stuff going, and that's the whole point, keeping this stuff going. So we got one site that has all this stuff, and it's a public record law. So you go up there, and it's still a lawful and legal public record structure the way it is by law. It's a media site, so it's still a public record. So we have outlets how we can start utilizing this stuff to better protect ourselves. So, we do have solutions, but we're the solutions. We're the ones that have to do it. Anybody else? Nobody else would like to chime in at this point, then? Okay. Well, with that one, then, if nobody... Go ahead. Okay, so that's somebody was chiming up. All right, if nobody's going to bring us something else in, we got that. We're still working on these things. I'll get this stuff put up on the YouTube channel tonight, so that way you go to the YouTube channel, pull up some more legal and lawful information on it. It will be there for all of us. And I use that as the reference points to me, because I go back on certain talk shows of Oregon trackers, so that way if I need something, I go back to it. Sometimes it's easier to find. And if I don't find it there, I got to go track it down on the website. And I try to get back on the website, too, because I got to keep on that one, too, as much as I can to know where things are being posted, because we all got to work together. So with that, if nobody's got anything else to add tonight, we'll call it an evening.
One more thing.
Oh, go ahead.
In Michigan, you can't mow your lawn. I guess it's not essential to mow your lawn. People are, there they are, not going anywhere, and they can't mow their lawn.
Well, who's renting the goats out then?
Residences either. Can't go to your next.
There's been a couple things on YouTube where people have been putting up little videos, and they've got bears and deer and cougars walking right through the cities right now because there's no people out there, so the wildlife is moving into the cities. Because the food resources ain't up in the cities like it used to be. Out in the woods. And so the raccoons and bears and all those type of things are going to people's garbage cans.
May I say something?
Absolutely.
Eddie, I just got busted here in Virginia. 2019, September 18th, for doing marijuana. And I'm new to all this. I know Joe Pugh. Joe's probably still on there.
Of course I am.
Yeah, I understand some of it, but I don't understand a lot of it. And I'm just now new to this stuff.
Okay,
I'm not sure what to do.
All right, well, we do have that. I do have the federal laws where hemp is lawful, not legal.
Right.
And if you have my email, I'll be more than willing to email it to you. Also, too, there is federal law that says it's traditional native, and that does include peyote, mushrooms, marijuana, even including cocaine.
Huh.
So if you grow your own coca leaves, you can do that, and that is lawful, not legal. But you have to, and that really comes down to, and that implies with the 14th Amendment, so long as you're lawful, not legal.
Right.
And so, if you got my email, I'll be more than happy to email that to you and make sure that you have it.
Can you take down my email address?
You have mine, don't you?
I could probably get it from Joe. Joe could send it to me, but I don't know how to do all that stuff.
What, the email?
Say again?
The email?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that stuff. I never really done messed with it any.
Okay. Hey, Joe, you still on the line?
Of course I am.
Good. Send me his email, because you have mine. I know you do.
Oh, of course.
So send me his email, and I will make sure I get that to him. And I thought I already emailed that stuff to you, but I'll make sure that you guys get double emails.
I got the email stuff that you gave me, and I know about the treaties and stuff. It's just we've got to get to a point where we can print everything out. That's what we're having issues with.
Yeah.
Okay, but you have the stuff on the, well, just email me his email. I'll make sure he gets it so he can start reading and watching some of the videos, and that way he'll have the certification from Congress that hemp is lawful.
Right.
Okay. I wasn't going to ask anything, but if you don't ask, you don't know. You don't learn nothing.
No, that's true, and that's the one thing that the problem we have. And see, we're living through all this crazy, bizarre shit, and it's so frustrating.
Yes, it is.
You know, because they have converted our rights into privileges, and I just got another email where the police departments, because the police departments are trying to take over, and if you know anything about police departments, the police departments are still run by, what do they call that? Scotland Yard.
Scotland Yard.
So, and it's always interesting when the New York City police or San Francisco police always have their bagpipes out, and people go, well, what? And it's like Scotland is still owned by the Queen of England. And I got people in Scotland I do talk to.
Bart, William Bart.
Well,
go ahead. I didn't hear you.
Bagpipes?
Yeah, speak up.
William Barr. He did. He brought out the bagpipes and played them.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Hey, can I interrupt Ed for a moment and let the gentleman know that doesn't know what he's doing? That if he'd like to add me on Facebook, he's more than welcome to, and I can help him out learn the court paperwork.
That sounds like a winner to me.
Yeah, I figured I can help you with like the court rules and all that.
Yeah, my name is Dean Harting, Harting.
Dean Harting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll go ahead and add you. I'm Darlene. It's nice to meet you. Hey, Ed, can I interrupt a moment?
You got it. You got the floor.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I just want to ask you with that Registration Act, pursuant to 1938, I think. Yeah, the Foreign Registration Act. Now, I went ahead and filed one in my court, but they ignored it. Am I asking them to fill it out, or am I wanting a filled out form to add to my case?
You want to fill it out form, but also, too, you want to fill it out and file it in Washington, D.C. with the Fair Act Board.
Okay.
Because then you're asking the board, because your local district attorney and state attorney general did not do their job, so then you're going to the board now, and you're putting them in a position that to go after them. And what I've got a letter that I'm going to resend them, that I just recently sent them, and we're going to do this again, is to have their funding cut off. Because if they're not going to do their job, they don't need funding.
Right. All right, thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you guys.
No, don't be sorry. That's what all this is about, so we're working with each other. That's what I've been saying. We have to come together and start talking and getting this thing going.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
We're also going to have to get some of the forms like the 3949A, the 1099A, the 1099C, the 1099 OID. What is it? Your 211 W9. Your 4506A?
Well, yeah, but Joe, you got to explain this one. The 4506A form is an IRS form for nonprofits. Your police department, your hospitals, your churches, your cop, even if he's a personal cop, whatever, they're all 4506 nonprofit agents. So you can file a form with the IRS and you want a written response and you want to put on the form you want a written response.
Yep.
The one thing is, my court date comes up next month on the 13th. I ain't got much time.
When is your court date?
The 13th of next month.
Okay.
Yeah,
Joe, give him my phone number.
I will, but what he's really got to do is he's got to get rid of the lawyer. Plus, we'll have to have a little conversation about that. Basically, what happened was the lawyer he got a hold of, okay, was not a court appointed. He paid for him. He switched sides. He's now the Commonwealth attorney. Conflict of interest right there. He gave.
So what he wants to do is he wants to file a complaint on the man and insist his money returned immediately.
Exactly. And then
and property.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I don't know if he'd want the property. It was moldy.
And I'll send you $100, Ed, to keep your website up.
Cool, and I will be sending that, and we'll put that right into the foundation of it, because that's the whole point. Is we'll get that. Joe will give you my number. We'll work on this here. We'll get you that. And the other point you want to file immediately in the court is a conflict of interest to the clerk, to the judge, and the cop that was involved. And we want to get to file on all three of them if they're registered in the 1938 Foreign Administration Registration Act. And then we want to file on the court form itself.
All right.
And so, like I said, Joe will give you your number. We could talk about a little bit of it tonight when we get off the talk show. And then we'll start putting a plan together. And if somebody's got a phone system, we could do it like a four-way. Because Joe, I, and you and the lady, we could all get together, or anybody else, we could do this on another. Actually, we could do it when we get off tonight, too. Actually, when we get off and we're not recording, we could talk afterwards, too.
Right.
If everybody has Zoom, we can all do it and share, like, paperwork and stuff.
Yeah, I don't really have the Zoom situation.
Gotcha. Okay.
Free.
My whole situation is that right now we've got to, like I said, we've got to get to a place where we can print stuff, and that's been what's really been holding me up right now. Where I'm at, they've shut the power down. I can't even get off this hill, and I'm pretty sure I kind of got hit like Ed did. Once you start doing this stuff, you've got to understand you may be attacked. Okay, they're going to make it look like somebody else did it. It's a messed up situation, because once you start to show that you have knowledge, they want people just to say yes and bow down. We don't say yes, we don't bow down. Like Ed says, they wrote them, we quote them. Okay, and that's basically what's going on. And they don't like people fighting back. And the minute you start fighting back, or you start questioning, I wouldn't say fighting, I guess questioning is a better way of describing it. Once you start questioning their authority and whatnot, they get really, really upset. And then you're going to find out things start happening. My place was also attacked, and people were broken into. And ironically, I caught 3 of them on the property, but they just a little too clean cut to be normal thieves. You understand what I'm saying? So, and that's kind of what's happened to me, is that I can't even get up and down the road right now without help from friends. And that's been the major issue, is getting back and forth. And then the other one is trying to coincide, because my cousin's involved in this also. They've actually attacked my family. Okay, the court systems have come after us, and they've come after us hard. What they didn't understand is that we all used to work on Capitol Hill. So, they can come, but they need to be careful. We're trying to get a hold of people that we know of. Bob Goodlad is an actual family friend through my cousin. So we're trying to get a hold of him, but he's kind of in hiding right now. And we've climbed we've climbed the ladder. We went to Ben Klein, which is the representative for the state here. We went to local local individual, which is Christopher Todd Gilbert, and all of them test people. They're not supposed to turn you down, tell you go get a lawyer. And that's where the original 13th Amendment comes in. So, and that's kind of what we've got going on here. But yeah, I mean, we can do a conference call situation or, get a setup situation. My whole thing is, I'm up in Winchester, he's down in Front Royal, so we're about an hour away.
Let me put it this way. Let me interrupt you a minute, Joe. Why don't we go ahead and close up for tonight, and we'll stay on the line afterwards, and we'll do the conference call here because we can still do that. And then this way we can talk freely, just for the sake of argument, because for the recording tracking records.
Exactly.
So why don't we do that? I think the producer will be happy with that one. So
I'll stay online.
Go ahead, huh?
I'm sorry. I'll stay online.
Yeah, just everybody stay online because we've been through this. We've done this before. It's nothing new. But with that, then we'll like to say good night to everybody. May the Creator bless you. May Mother Earth feed you, and Father take care of you. Without Mother and Father, we don't live, and we don't get our deer. We don't elk. We don't get elk. We don't get our food resources because it takes male and female to survive. Once you get rid of male and female, then you have nothing. And then that's what they're trying to do, is destroy this planet, and I don't know why people are doing this without teaching people and the children how to educate themselves and be responsible. So with that, we'll keep going on, and with that, you folks have a good evening. We'll catch up with you later. I'll get the other stuff posted on the new court stuff that I got in. And also, too, as the producer said, when you type in Ed Johnston, Oregon Trackers, it comes up, and it gives you the impression that I've said my medical condition. I've given up and walked away, and, like I said, even the producer knows. I've done talk shows when I was in ICU. He's called me when I was in ICU. People know that, I've been through this stuff. So I haven't died. I haven't gone anywhere. And so I have not walked away from anything I'm doing because I'm still continuing, because after when they destroyed my family, my relationship, it pissed me off enough. So, I have nothing else in life. I thought I was going to have a family. They took my family away more than once. And so, I got to do what I got to do. So I got to have something in life. So with that, you all have a good evening, and we'll end it right there. We'll stop the recording.
All right. Now, yes, Ed called me late at night. He's wondering why the heck that happened, and I did some research, found out the truth, and, well, actually, my wife found out that it was David's letter, not Ed's, but the way they try to do misdirection and stuff is just retarded. And the scary thing is, people will believe it just by reading that little bit right there. So we worked on something that if you go to any of his Facebook pages, you'll see a picture that shows the search and the truth. So with that, guys, it's Saturday, April 18th, 2020. It's been a very long day for me, and I got a longer day ahead of me, so y'all have fun. We'll see you next week, unless Ed decides to go back to his home planet or something, or whatever he does. And, you'll get more information, so see you next week.